here. We're getting ready to see some of the superstars of monster truck racing, such as Overkill and First Blood, try and knock off the defending world champion Bigfoot truck.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, with the toughest, the quickest, and the fastest super-modified mud racers in the United States, battling it out for another U.S. Harmon Association Camel World Championship Series title. Welcome to Super Trax.
The United States Hot Rod Association presents the ultimate from the wide world of motorsports, Super Trax.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia, as we prepare to get underway with qualifying for this 8-truck monster truck showdown. And the very first man who'll line up on this rather unique 150-foot-long course against the clock to determine qualifying position is probably driving the best-known machine in all of motorsports. John Pyatt out of St. Louis, Missouri, at the wheel of the legendary Big Blue Ford known as Bigfoot. Conservative off the starting line, on the brakes hard, and stops it within inches of the retaining wall in the shutdown area. The elapsed time for Bigfoot to start off qualifying, 4.11 seconds. Pyatt will head back to the pit area. Like I said, one man against the clock, individual runs determining qualifying position, but here is a driver who has done amazing things in U.S. Harmon Association competition this season. Rob Bush in the First Blood Ford out of Woodstock, Illinois. The unsponsored independent known as the Working Class Hero has been one of the single toughest pieces of equipment on the U.S. Harmon Association Tour. Backing up over the 4-foot-high dirt moguls located just off the starting line that have so far caused John Pyatt to approach the course rather cautiously. Once lined up on the starting line, he'll receive the green light countdown and then head for the other end, looking to better Pyatt's 4.11 second starter. Rob Bush using a rather heavy-duty neck brace this year. As anybody who is familiar with this sport knows, it is a rough task driving these machines. And with a slight nosedive bouncing off to the left of his lane, Rob Bush completes his qualifying run with an exceptional effort. The elapsed time, 3.98 seconds. By 0.13 of a second, he'll move into the #1 qualifying spot over Bigfoot. The next machine on the starting line, one for the Chevrolet fans. Ken Deppy at the wheel of the Whiskey Business rear engine truck, lining up on the starting line. Deppy has fared quite well in the 1991 U.S. Harmon Association National Event Tour. The elapsed time to beat, 3.98 seconds. A wild bounce in the shutdown area, but Deppy completes the course without many problems. The elapsed time, 3.99 seconds. By 100th of a second, Deppy will take second, still ahead of Bigfoot. That'll bring up the Weapon 1 Chevrolet from the state of Ohio, Jerry Richmond behind the wheel. Richmond obviously a little irritated, being held up on the starting line for a fair amount of time, now ready to take the green. A little conservative off the starting line, but smooth as glass at the finish. In the elapsed time, 4.10 seconds, will knock Bigfoot all the way down to 4th and put Richmond #3.
Now it's time for another Crunch of the Week. USA 1, the monster notorious for losing control, flew to an apparent victory at this indoor event, but the brakes failed to hold. The machine takes out a concrete wall in a memorable crash. On the replay, you can see the cinder blocks giving way under the 5-ton charge. Luckily, no one was hurt, except, of course, the wall. That's this week's Crunch of the Week.
Super Trax will be right back with more extreme motorsports action. Don't go away. We're back at the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia, as we continue qualifying for this 8-truck monster truck program. And right now, the number one spot is held by the First Blood Ford at 3.98 seconds. But coming out, a brand new competitor in a relatively familiar machine. Young Kurt Fisher at the wheel of the Breen Brothers Racing Chevrolet out of the state of Missouri, sponsored by Micro Machines. This is Kurt Fisher's first ever U.S. Hobbit Association National Championship event. And it should be interesting to see how the younger driver campaigns with the big block Chevrolet-powered truck. Right now, anything quicker than 4.11 seconds would get him in the top 4 and even ahead of Bigfoot. Fisher has a good one going. He lands nicely on the brakes. The elapsed time, 3.77 seconds. The kid gets the pole by over 0.2 of a second in his debut on the U.S. Hobbit Association Tour. Unbelievable. That'll bring out Marty Garza, a radical new machine that debuted at the end of the 1990 season in Houston, Texas, on the U.S. Hobbit Association circuit. His machine, called Overkill, utilizes a rear-mounted, supercharged, fuel-injected Ford. Obviously, the crowd is already behind the brand-new machine. Garza stages up. Although it looked like Garza may have been just being conservative, that sounded more like fuel delivery problems off the starting line, as the truck never did run right. The elapsed time, a disappointing 4.97 seconds. But getting ready to fire up next is the Jersey Outlaw, the Super Winch-sponsored Ford of Mike Wine out of the state of New Jersey. Certainly one of the toughest monster truck campaigners on the eastern seaboard. Boy, if that look doesn't tell you that he means business, nothing will. Line backs the machine up over the 4-foot-high dirt moguls off the starting line, and has so far made this a pretty interesting course for the drivers. And remember, with a pile of dirt that high, so close to the starting line, if you flat-foot it right on the green light, you're going to get so much air that the truck's going to come literally straight down well before the crush cars. Therefore, it calls for some extra caution to be exercised. Wine waits patiently for the green light on the starting line. The mark to beat, an astounding 3.77 seconds. And obviously, Mike Wine isn't too thrilled about being held up waiting for the green. Now he's ready. A nice pass in and out of the throttle, bouncing around a little bit. It wasn't the smoothest run we've seen, but the elapsed time for the Outlaw, 4.98 seconds. That will place him right now actually fairly far down in the field. But the 3.77-second run by the incredible Micro Machine entry and its brand-new driver, Kurt Fisher, has literally astounded the crowd here at Roanoke. Certainly, we know that Kurt Fisher can drive the Micro Machines entry, but how well can he do against competition in the other lane? Stay with us, because along with answering that question, we'll see who's the quickest and fastest mud racer on the planet. Don't go away. We're in Uniondale, New York at the Nassau Coliseum, getting ready to begin qualifying for the quickest and fastest indoor motorsports machines in the world, the Super Modified Mud Racers. An 80-foot-long mud pit, 36 inches deep, in which the drivers that you're about to see will have to traverse as quickly as possible. It's an elapsed time competition, but remember, under U.S. Hobbit Association rules, the drivers only have 80 more feet in which to stop these vehicles or be disqualified. The chopped, sectioned, and narrowed Gambler Ford leaves the starting line first and crosses the finish line, locking up the brakes, stopping well within the limits. The elapsed time for the Gambler, 2.26 seconds. The fuel-injected Ford will start things off. Remember, the 4 quickest drivers will qualify for the final shootout. The next man up is driving the best-known mud racer in the sport, the Mud Patrol 1932 Chevy that took world champion Tom Martin to 3 consecutive world titles. His new driver from Indiana, Paul Schaefer, is now behind the wheel of the nitrous oxide-injected 588 cubic inch Chevy-powered machine. Yanking the left front wheel on a tremendous wheel stand, locking up the brakes. He stops it in time and salutes the crowd. Paul Schaefer in the Mud Patrol machine puts down a run of 1.99 seconds. That will obviously take over the number 1 spot. Bill Bartlett out of New England in the Moonlightin' 478 cubic inch Bronco is next. And Bartlett, not a bad effort as the visor comes up in the shutdown area. 2.498 seconds for the New England area Ford that has been at it for well over 15 years. The next machine up will feature a brand new driver. Preston Ward, and the Mystic Warrior machine has been one of the toughest Ford-powered entries on the U.S. Hobbit Association trail. But now behind the wheel, it's the owner of the entry, 17-year-old Matt Ward. The fuel-injected, nitrous-injected 30 Ford A leaves the line. And the kid looks pretty good in the cockpit, stopping it well within the required 80-foot distance. The elapsed time, 2.25 seconds. It'll put him number 3 in the field. And here's Mike Spina, the madman of mud racing from New England, the psychotic beast, supercharged Chevy. He has to go quicker than 2:26 to qualify. A great run, hard on the brakes. He stops it within a few feet of the 80-foot marker. What a job for Spina. And the elapsed time, 2.03 seconds, will qualify him number 2 of the program. Out of New Jersey, Rich Marcini, the naturally wired 1932 Chevy 5-window coupe. Marcini on the binders. Man, within 2 feet of the disqualification mark, but a great pass, one of the quickest he's ever made. 2 seconds flat will qualify him number 2.
Thought I'd take a little break and get away from all that loud noise and all the action down trackside, so I came upstairs where I'm now standing in front of one of the mini novelty booths where I'm going to probably pick up just a couple of items. I don't know, just 1 or 2. Some people blame me for going overboard when I go shopping. I can't imagine what in the world they're talking about. Going overboard. This is what every monster truck fan needs.
And that brings us to this week's Power Drive. Last year, during a late Poland Championship competition, Mr. Sparkle used every bit of its horsepower to finish with a full pull and claim the title. As the sled came forward, burdening this immaculate machine, the wheels spun, grinding for every inch. And that's why that's this week's Power Drive.
Super Trax will be right back with more extreme motorsports action. Don't go away. We're back at the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, continuing the qualifying round to determine the 4 quickest super modified mud racers at this U.S. Hobbit Association Camo Mud Racing Championship event. The next machine up, battling a bump spot right now of 2.25 seconds, will be the Papa Smurf 1923 Ford Model T Roadster with fuel-injected Chevrolet motivation. Remember, in this category, just about anything goes with the exception of the tires. The tires must be Department of Transportation approved street legal tires, but as you can see, the drivers can change the tread any way they want. John Herzog waits for the green light, now leaves the line. But Herzog's got more problems than just a wrong tread design on his machine. Obviously way down on power. If nothing else, that run gave you an indication of just how slimy 36 inches of mud can be. The hook goes out to disconnect the kill switch, and John Herzog is not happy. Steve Abbott and the Total Obsession machine pulls to the starting line a supercharged, fuel-injected Ford Bronco with Chevrolet motivation of all things. A heavyweight machine that is best known for some serious weight transfer off the starting line. While most of the machines in this class of competition weigh in at right around 21 or 2,200 pounds with the driver on board, they are required by the U.S. Hobbit Association to weigh in at over 2,400, necessitating a lot of extra weight added to some machines. But the Total Obsession team doesn't have to worry. This thing weighs in at almost 3,000 pounds on its own. Wrapping the throttle on 2,000 Chevrolet horsepower, waiting for the green light to come on. The visor comes down into a forward gear, and now away. On the brakes hard, but he'll stop it in time. The biggest problem there was a lot of tire spin right off the starting line. The elapsed time, 2.195 seconds, however, will qualify number 4 in the field. But that brings up the killer. The fan who has already reset the national elapsed time record to 1.683 seconds this year. Milwaukee, Wisconsin's Jeff Acker and the Insanity supercharged Chevy-powered 1927 Ford. Acker has been the biggest threat to Tom Martin's dominance of this category so far in 1991, and right now he's faced with the prospect of running quicker than 2.19 seconds in order to qualify for this field. One of the most potent engines in all of Supermodified mud racing. The four-wheel drive Street Roadster has been nearly invincible this season. Staged up and ready. Remember, he must go quicker than 2.195 seconds to make the final four. A wheel standing start, and the machine almost clips the left-hand side finish line pole, but he'll stop it in time. The elapsed time, 1.90 seconds, will put Acker in the program. Number 1 qualifier, even with the problems incurred down at the finish line. And Acker knows he's in on the pole.
You know, the one thing about mud racing that any driver will tell you is it's not like any other form of motorsports because the track changes every second, and I don't even think you were prepared for the conditions you had out there.
No, I wasn't. It spun real hard in the line. I didn't think the starting line was going to go away that fast because they packed down a little bit more today, but I just couldn't get a hold of anything on the line, and guess I tried to make it up in the pit a little bit.
It looked at the finish line like the machine was trying to go right and you were trying to steer left, and that's what kept it straight.
Well, yeah, I was pulling on the ruts, and the front end wasn't touching very hard, so I just tried to compensate so if it would bounce, it'd pull me over.
Well, it worked. That'll be good for the number 1 spot right now, guy. You're in another shootout.
Thanks a lot, Brett.
See you then.
An amazing driver with an equally amazing machine, but he still lacks the credentials of this man. The 3-time and defending U.S. Honda Association Camel Mud Racing Super Modified World Champion, Indiana's Tom Martin. Now, earlier you saw the Mud Patrol 1932 Chevy that Tom took to 3 straight world titles. This is his newest entry for 1991. Another 32 Chevy Victoria body, but this one called the Super Trooper. Fuel-injected, nitrous oxide-injected, mountain-motored Chevrolet power. Martin now knows he must go quicker than 2.03 seconds to qualify for the field. As always, Tom taking his time getting ready, maneuvering himself around in the driver's seat until he feels comfortable, checking the engine temperature gauge, and, of course, turning on the flashing lights, which are more than just a show. They tell his crew chief, his father actually, who is located well down track, that he has looked at the starting line surface, seen what the pit looks like in general, and has decided to use the nitrous oxide injection. An extra 400 horsepower will be utilized at the push of a button off the starting line. But anytime you see Tom Martin stage up without the customary flashing lights, you know that he has elected to not use that nitrous system. Moving forward to stage ever so cautiously. He must go quicker than 2.038 seconds to knock Mike Spina's Psychotic Beast from the field and give the Super Trooper team a spot. Clearing out the engine, the winningest mud racer in the world, doing his job. Shutting off the engine a little early, he was apparently concerned about stopping distance. Was it quicker than the 2:03 he had to go? 1.93 seconds will qualify Tom Martin, number 2, behind his arch rival Jeff Acker and the Insanity Roadster. Martin makes the program, and that was what he was trying to do.
I got to tell you, though, I don't think you're fooling anybody. You shut off that early and go 193. You've got more in this thing.
Yeah, we got a lot more in the car, but I don't know about these banners down here. You know, this first round is important to get the shootout, and I can go for it in the finals because top 4, we're in it now.
Am I under the impression that you might have been trying to send a little message to Mr. Acker there by shutting it off a little early?
Well, I don't know about that. You know, it's real important to get in the shootout, and hopefully we'll send a message to them in the next round.
Indeed. Good job, guys.
That will bring up the 1985 U.S. Albert Association Mud Racing World Champ, Dave Ray out of New Hampshire, and the Midnight Magic entry. Certainly the last of the competitive full-bodied pickup trucks in super modified mud racing. Nowadays, with the rear-engine dragsters and lightweight alders and street roasters that dominate this category, it's rare to see a true full-bodied pickup truck, a solid 3,000-pound hitter. But David Ray has probably one of the strongest in the business, a supercharged, fuel-injected, methanol-burning Ford motor in this full-bodied Ford Ranger. He must go quicker now than 2.007 seconds. Rich Marcini's naturally wired 32 Chevy is now hanging on to the number 4 spot. Here's David Ray. David Ray knew that run was wasted as soon as he dropped the hammer. A phenomenal amount of tire spin on the starting line. He even shut the car down early, not because he was going to run out of room, but I think more because he was disgusted with the way the machine left the line. The elapsed time, 2.08 seconds, a good run, but nowhere near enough to make the field. That will bring up the final qualifying effort of this one and only qualifying round. This is the Nancy's Nightmare, a fiberglass Jeep CJ funny car. One of the more popular body styles a few seasons ago in super modified mud racing. But now, as I pointed out, the machines are getting even lighter and narrower. The Noonan Brothers Racing Team, with their Chevrolet-motivated Jeep CJ, will try to crack that 2.00 second bubble. And about all that can be said is that it made it to the finish line, and that's enough for the driver. A 2.84 second elapsed time, far off the pace, and that means that within our quick four in the Camel Shootout, we've got not only the defending and three-time world champion, but the driver who has been hottest on his tail throughout the season so far, Jeff Acker in the Insanity Roadster. Each one of the drivers who has made the quick four field will now get one shot against the clocks to determine the championship. But keep in mind, we've got side-by-side monster truck racing as well as mud racing action to go. Don't go away. We're back at the Spectrum in Philadelphia, ready for the first side-by-side monster truck battle here at this U.S. Albert Association National Championship event. We saw quite a surprise in qualifying when a brand new driver, Kurt Fisher, took the Micro Machine Chevrolet to the number one spot, but here's the first pair. It will be Ford and Chevrolet with the infamous Bigfoot Ford driven by John Pyatt taking on Ken Deppy's Whiskey Business rear-engine Chevrolet of the Breen Brothers Racing Team out of Missouri. The Bigfoot Ford had more than its fair share of problems during qualifying, ending up number 5 in the program. Certainly well below expectations there. But Ken Deppy actually unloaded a pretty decent effort, qualifying number 3 in this field with the Whiskey Business Chevrolet in the near lane. The first side-by-side battle of the event. But certainly Ken Deppy can't underestimate the power of Bigfoot. Ready for the green light. The Chevy gets the hole shot, but the Ford comes back around at the finish line. What a job by John Pyatt, driving around a hole shot for the victory. This time around, Ford and Chevrolet on the line. Near side, it's Mike Wine and the Jersey Outlaw. In the far lane, it's Ohio's Jerry Richmond, and Richmond is upset. The driver of the Weapon 1 Chevrolet is apparently quite irritated at Mike Wine, who's taking more than enough time to stage up in the other lane. Wine now backing up and unhooking his neck collar, and Jerry Richmond is out of the cockpit in the Weapon 1 Chevy. I don't think we've ever seen Richmond quite this upset. Apparently, Mike Wine was taking quite a bit of time staging up the Outlaw Ford. Richmond was waiting on the line patiently. You remember, both these drivers got held on the starting line during qualifying. Richmond says, I shut off. He was taking so long over in the other lane, and Richmond is hot. Richmond now jumps down. Mike Wine is out of the cockpit of the Outlaw, and Richmond's going over to have a little discussion. It looks like Mike Wine may have hurt some parts. Richmond isn't even going to let him look at him, though. And it looks like discretion is definitely the better part of valor in this instance, as Richmond now takes up his case with the starting line officials. Well, it appears that Mike Wine did damage some driveline parts on the starting line, and it is official. Richmond will get a solo run into the semifinal round. He hasn't cooled down any, but he'll get the automatic victory. And the truck bogs right off the starting line. Richmond completes the run okay, but actually he was lucky he didn't have somebody else in the other lane on that run, with the machine falling on its face right at the green light. Here comes the first blood forward of Rob Bush, the home-built machine that has been featured on our Super Trax events coverage so far this year as a non-stop winner. So far, he's had 3 national event victories this season, 2 runners-up, and now is looking at the possibility of more than a .666 batting average. Backing up behind the starting line, we are waiting for his opponent. But it appears now we have just received word that Marty Garza's overkill Ford ran into more than just fuel delivery problems during his qualifying effort. And by a stroke of luck, Rob Bush will pick up valuable World Championship points on a bye run into the semifinals. But this will be an interesting situation regardless of the fact that there's nobody in the other lane. Bush now has the opportunity to try and find the missing 0.2 of a second that separates the first blood Ford and the #1 qualifier, young Kurt Fisher in the Micro Machine Chevy. He'll get a chance to run against the clock here. A little bit conservative off the starting line, a rough bounce at the end of the course. During qualifying, Bush ran 3.98 seconds, and he's probably not going to be happy with a 4.26 second run here on this solo effort. Now backing up to the starting line is the killer, the biggest surprise of this event so far, Kurt Fisher, and the Micro Machine Chevrolet, who took the pole by almost a quarter of a second from Rob Bush. But he also will benefit from tremendous racing luck. His opponent, Bennett Clark in the Clydesdale Chevrolet that broke during the qualifying round, has been unable to repair the damage, and the Micro Machines Chevy will single into the semifinals as well. But again, we just saw Rob Bush run 4.26 seconds. Here's a chance for the new kid on the block to show that he still has the power. The look of the newest sensation at this particular event of the U.S. Honda Association Tour. Very easy off the starting line, maybe even a little more air than Fisher would have liked, but the elapsed time, 4.06 seconds. That kid is going to be tough, but he still has not had to actually race someone in the other lane, even as he advances to the semifinal round. When we return, we'll see if the kid is as strong as he looks, as he battles the biggest and the best in U.S. Honda Association competition. Don't go away. Especially this particular battle. It's the best-known monster truck in the world against the newest driver on the U.S. Honda Association Tour. John Pyatt in the Bigfoot Ford, a top 4 finisher in the Camel World Championship last year, against a driver who in this round will be taking on his first real opponent in U.S. Honda Association competition. Pyatt certainly has proven himself in past events. Now it's up to the kid in the far lane to show what he's got. together in his first real side-by-side race, annihilates the best-known machine in the sport. John Pyatt has got to be as stunned as the crowd. Bigfoot is history. The Micro Machine Chevy goes to the final. What a battle. This time around, Jerry Richmond will take on the one and only Rob Fuchs. The Weapon One Chevy takes on the First Blood Ford. We've got a pair of Ford and Chevy matches making up this semifinal round. Certainly, Jerry Richmond's blood pressure is at an all-time high throughout the qualifying and elimination rounds of this event. He's had more than his fair share of altercations. In the meantime, Rob Fuchs' sole concern in the First Blood Ford has been trying to keep up with the #1 qualifier. The 1989 U.S. Helmet Association Rookie of the Year idles into the starting line area. Jerry Richmond once again staging up first. At this point, I don't think he can complain about having to wait. And there's a Rob Fuchs trademark, the spin to stage, as he calls it, lining the machine up on the left-hand side of the course. Jerry Richmond waiting patiently in the far lane, but remember, he staged up before the First Blood Ford was ever even really on the starting line marker itself. So at this point, he'll just have to sit and wait. Rob Fuchs now apparently is ready. Leading out the window to make sure the front wheels are lined up straight. Now signaling that he is ready. They leave the line together. Both trucks stumble right over the dirt mogul, but it's Rob Fuchs that recovers first for the victory. That has got to be the first time this year we have seen two trucks both incur the same problems at the same point on the course. But Rob Fuchs' First Blood Ford will go to the final round against the Micro Machine Chevrolet. And the pressure is all on Kurt Fisher. And speaking of pressure, we've got the Final Four in the Camel U.S. Helmet Association Super Modified Mud Racing Championships to go, including the Jeff Acker versus Tom Martin War. Don't go away. Here at the Nassau Coliseum in Uniondale, New York, we are down to the 4 quickest super modified mud racers at this particular Camel U.S. Helmet Association Championship event. And in just a moment, those 4 drivers will each get one shot at this rather used-up 80-foot-long mud pit right now. And the quickest elapsed time recorded will eventually earn its driver the championship title. The first man up was the first man under 2 seconds flat at this event. Paul Schaefer, the brand new driver of the Mud Patrol 32 Chevrolet. He ran 1.99 seconds during the first qualifying round. We'll see what the track is capable of holding now on his second effort. Another pair of giant wheel stands on the brakes hard. He stops it in time. But a tremendous amount of tire spin on the starting line. The elapsed time that leads the shootout now 2.10 seconds for Schaefer. 2:10 now the mark to beat for this driver. Rich Marcini, the naturally wired 32 Chevrolet out of New Jersey, gets his shot. Marcini shuts the engine down a little bit early. He had better starting line traction than Schaefer did, but the mark will just miss. 2.17 seconds. It'll be good for the number 2 spot, but that's about it right now. Jeff Acker, meanwhile, the number 1 qualifier at 1.90 seconds, moves up. The national elapsed time record holder from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, with 2,000 Chevrolet horsepower on tap, is ready. He must go quicker than 2:10 to take the lead. Something goes away in the drivetrain. Jeff Acker looking behind him to see what the problem was, but he is obviously not happy with that effort. 15 feet shy of the finish line. Acker will not be a threat to win this battle. The best he can do at this point now is finish 4th, unless, believe it or not, the final driver of the event runs into more problems than Acker had. But there is one unhappy racer. In a battle for the world championship with three-time and defending world titleist Tom Martin, he's going to have to be pulled out of the top end of this pit with a front loader. That will leave one driver to challenge the #1 spot, and believe it or not, if Tom Martin can beat the 2:10 by Paul Schaefer, it will still give the Mud Patrol Super Trooper team a 1-2 finish. But you know Martin wants the points that go with this victory towards a 4th consecutive world championship. So in order to beat teammate Schaefer, he must better 2.10 seconds. You can see just how sticky the mud is right now, clinging to the treads of the tire. That will certainly affect traction when the car leaves the line. It will also create quite a show as this thing slings mud 20 feet in the air. Staged and ready. 2.104 seconds or less is what he needs. He shuts off well ahead of the finish line, but the elapsed time, 1.98 seconds, gives the win to Tom Martin. And the Super Trooper wins his first national event of the 1991 season. An incredible ride for Martin, and that is the kind of morale boost he needed to get back on top in the Mud Racing Wars. But coming up, we've got a race that could be a morale boost for either a brash young kid or a seasoned veteran. It's the Monster Truck Final Round, and this kid, Kurt Fisher, at the wheel of the Micro Machine Chevrolet, although we've only had a chance to see him once in side-by-side competition, has been amazing. The #1 qualifier by an astounding 0.2 seconds. He beats Bigfoot in his first actual side-by-side U.S. Helmet Association competition run, and now he has to take on the winningest driver of 1991. Rob Fuchs and the First Blood Ford will be in the other lane against the Breen Brothers Micro Machine Chevrolet. The crowd obviously voicing their approval for both entries as they back over the dirt moguls in front of the starting line and get ready for the showdown. You can only wonder what's going through the mind of that young man as he waits on the starting line to see his opponent, Rob Fuchs, pulling out on the course. The traditional spin up to the line for Rob Fuchs. He'll now back up and line up parallel to the Micro Machine Chevrolet. There you see Fisher. He doesn't even want to look at Rob Fuchs at this point. He only wants to see a green light. Saluting the crowd that is obviously cheering the Chevrolet rookie on. As Rob Fuchs backs up, taking his time, obviously he wants this to be the perfect staging process. Now the Ford back behind the line. The starting line officials will stage the truck manually. Kurt Fisher still waiting patiently on the other side of the course as Rob Fuchs puts on the neck brace that we pointed out earlier is actually 2 braces connected. Obviously, with Fuchs, there's no such thing as too much safety equipment. The Chevrolet in the far lane still waiting. Now they are ready. The countdown begins. Another huge hole shot for the Chevy. And this time, there's no way Rob Fuchs will make up the difference. The most incredible upset we have seen this year. Kurt Fisher, look at the hole shot, a full truck length, and that's what won it for the kid.
Outstanding competition all night long, and the answer, I'll say, you have the best and the biggest here. Ford, here he comes. Will you please give a big hand to the first one?
Here at the Roanoke Civic Center in Roanoke, Virginia, we have witnessed a massive upset. Kurt Fisher and the Breen Brothers Micro Machine Chevrolet strapped this incredible hole shot on Rob Fuchs, the First Blood Machine, and gave Fuchs a 500 batting average for the year. Look at the hole shot. But that gave Fuchs his third runner-up effort of the season versus his 3 previous wins, and now Kurt Fisher is the killer. Down on the floor, Chris Chapman should be able to get a word with him.
What should be a surprising victory. Kurt Fisher and the Micro Machines have taken his first win for the 1991 season. We'll try and get a word with him right now. He's staging his truck. The crowd is loving every minute of it. We'll go on and head that way. Kurt, this is your first win for 1991.
First weekend I've been out since 1990, so I feel real good about it. We had a good night. Last week we had a little breakage, but this time we came out on top.
So are you pleased with the performance of the truck? Last time you didn't have very good luck out here.
Yeah, I'm real pleased. This tonight, for some reason, just everything went our way, and we wanted it, and we got it.
Congratulations again, Kurt.
Thank you.
Kurt Fisher takes the win over First Blood in the final round of competition at the Roanoke Civic Center.
And we saw the return of the dominating force in super modified mud racing. Tom Martin and the Super Trooper takes another victory.
You're going to make me stand in this hole down here, aren't you? National event win number 45. And I got to tell you, that was one of probably the trickiest tracks you've had to deal with this year.
Yeah, the track was really tricky. I was worried about the car breaking on the starting line. We had a lot of mud on the tires. It puts a lot of weight on everything. You know, I'm glad that they put these big holes down here to help me stop.
It would look like a pretty rough landing down here, too. This is what you need to keep that bid for a 4th straight World Championship going.
That's right. I need a little luck. You know, my luck hasn't been too good, and this weekend it's good. I hope it keeps going.
Congratulations, Guy. Great job again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Kurt Fisher has stepped away from the Micro Machines truck, and he's over there celebrating with the fans, signing a few autographs. And that's a wrap from the Roanoke Civic Center in beautiful Roanoke, Virginia. I'm Chris Chapman. Good night. I've had a great time. I'm sure you at home have. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time on Super Trax.